Just 3 weeks before our wedding, my fiancé told me she wanted an open relationship. That hit me hard and I called off the wedding right then and there. About 3 weeks ago, we were exactly 3 weeks out from tying the knot. Out of nowhere, she asked if I'd go to therapy with her. She was already seeing a therapist on her own, but she wanted us to sit down together before the wedding and have a completely honest conversation. That threw me off. I thought we already were being honest after all, we were about to get married, weren't we? What also struck me as strange was how secretive she'd always been about her therapy. She never talked about it. I hadn't even met her therapist. So suddenly being invited into that space felt off. Still, the day came and I showed up. Just to protect myself, I had my phone in my pocket with the audio recording app running. I figured better safe than sorry. She was already there when I arrived and I ended up waiting 30 minutes before they brought me in. The therapist greeted me politely, shook my hand. We made some small talk. Then she said something weird. She told me I wasn't at all like how my fiancé had described me. I guess she meant it as a compliment, but it felt odd. Then she turned to my fiancé and said, "This might be harder than we thought." That sent a chill down my spine. But I kept my cool, smiled awkwardly like most people do in moments like that. The therapist gave a little speech. Honestly, I don't remember most of it and don't care to repeat it. While she talked, my fiancé took my hand. That's when the therapist said we live in a modern world and that my fiancé was hoping for a more non-traditional marriage. I smiled politely, still not really getting where this was going. I figured she was about to say something about equality in the relationship. Maybe she didn't want to give up her career, or she wanted to make sure she had independence. Something like that. Girl power, right? Nope. What she really meant was that after we got married, she wanted the freedom to sleep with other men. That kind of non-traditional. I had to remind myself it was 2020, not 1960. But here's the kicker, while she wanted that freedom, she didn't want me to have it too. Said it would break her heart knowing I found other women attractive. That maybe one of them could take me away from her. I let them talk. I didn't say much. They got more comfortable, more confident the longer I stayed quiet, like they'd rehearsed this whole thing and my silence was encouraging them. At one point, I turned to the therapist and asked if she was licensed. The look on her face told me that was not the question she expected. She said yes. So I looked at her and said, "Great, then please explain to my fiancé why we won't be getting married. And why, starting now, we're not a couple anymore." I wished them both luck and walked out. Now, I'm thinking about reporting the therapist. I'm not sure if I should go to the clinic she works at, or if there's some kind of licensing board I should contact. I don't think this was some random misstep, it felt intentional. That whole session rubbed me the wrong way. To be clear, there was never going to be a good outcome to that conversation. Even if she had said I could also sleep with other women, I still would have ended things. That's not marriage. That's just pretending. And now with some distance, I can't help but wonder if she already cheated on me. The more I think back, the more little things don't add up. I was probably a fool from the start. I went back and listened to the recording. Even now, I can't believe what I heard. But yeah, I called off the wedding. I'm a chill guy. I don't start fights. I don't look for drama. I try to live by common sense and basic principles. Maybe that made her think I was some pushover. Like I'd let her walk all over me. Well, joke's on her. Listening to that recording a few times made one thing clear. The therapist realized I wasn't the person my fiancé had described in her solo sessions. That's probably why she said, "This might be harder than we thought." Now that the wedding's off, people are starting to ask questions. I'm not really sure how to answer. I'm certain my ex is doing some kind of PR cleanup, but I've got the recording. And if she tries to spin things too far, I won't hesitate to tell people exactly what went down. Still, I'm struggling with what to tell my parents and family. I don't want them to think I'm an idiot for getting to the point where she felt so bold, so confident, that she could look me in the eye and tell me she wanted to screw other guys. Now she's blowing up my phone. And not just mine, my best friends, my brothers too. She's throwing out every excuse. I misunderstood what was said. She'll do anything to fix it. It was all the therapist's idea. She never really wanted it. Last desperate cry from a sinking ship. Too bad, I'm the one not listening anymore. We were in the process of getting a home loan together too. I shut all of that down. Wiped out every financial connection we had. Her latest excuse is that in therapy, she shared her insecurities about our sex lives. I'd been with more people than she had, and the therapist supposedly suggested we should level the field. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. That therapist is getting reported the moment I figure out how to do it properly. I know this post is mostly me venting, but I'd love advice on how to deal with the questions from friends and family. My ex is clearly spinning her version of events, and I don't want to be the one left looking like the bad guy. I do have the recording, but I'm not sure if I should send it around. She doesn't even know it exists. Small update. I'm at work and just got confirmation that the journal was delivered back to her. I sent it early this morning through our office courier. She had to sign for it, something a few people recommended I do. I realized reading it wasn't going to bring me any clarity. She never took accountability for anything anyway. Update 1. All jokes aside, the last couple of weeks have been something else. Last Monday, I talked to a lawyer at work about what happened with the therapist. At first, he looked at me like I was messing with him. Thought it was some kind of prank. So I asked if he wanted to hear the recording. He said, "Damn right." We talked again the next day, and he pointed out something I hadn't noticed. Throughout the recording, the therapist kept using we language: we think, we want, we decided. Not once did she say, "Your fiancé asked me," or "Your fiancé wants you to know." Nope. It was always we. He also asked what I was trying to do. Did I want to sue? I told him no. He agreed I didn't really have a personal lawsuit, but I could definitely notify the right authorities and let them look into it. So we decided to write 2 letters, one to the clinic where she works and another to the APA. We looked her up. She's accredited. By Wednesday, a few more folks at work knew about everything, including one of the case researchers. She started digging and found some things on the therapist, online reviews, background info, and even managed to track down 2 of her former clients. Turns out, the therapist didn't have the best reputation. There were a bunch of negative reviews and people clearly weren't happy with her. We got in touch with those 2 past clients through social media, and once we explained the situation, they were more than willing to help. Their stories? Just as bad as mine, if not worse. The letters we were writing kept getting longer. We included their signed statements, along with my account of how my ex changed after starting therapy, and a full breakdown of how my own session with that therapist played out. That Friday, I had a sit-down with my ex's parents. They came over to my parents' place, and yep, my ex was there too. More things came out during that conversation, and we added those details to the report as well. This week, we finally sent everything out. The clinic responded quickly. Thursday morning, they actually called our office, probably to make sure it wasn't just some joke. We ended up talking to one of their lawyers or someone in their legal department. When we confirmed it was real, you could hear someone in the background on their end say, "Well, crap." They told us they were taking it very seriously. A guy at work had a theory. This wasn't the first complaint they'd received, but maybe it was the first one that came with solid evidence and multiple witnesses. Our letter also mentioned that we were reporting the situation to the APA, and that probably added fuel to the fire. Might explain why they jumped on it so fast. I don't know how this'll play out, and honestly, I consider my part done. Still, after talking to those other 2 people who were also affected, I really hope this therapist gets investigated. She sounds unhinged and like she's out here ruining people's lives. One of the folks we spoke with was a woman, just for the record. Now about my ex and her parents, here's how that went. Last Friday, my parents called and asked me to swing by after work. When I pulled into their driveway, I spotted my ex's parents' cars parked out front. My first thought was to turn around and leave. I had planned to meet with them on my own terms, not like this. But clearly she tried to take control of the situation again. She was waiting for me outside, and I have to admit, she looked really good, like the kind of girl any parent would be proud to introduce. She said they were there to talk, to try and fix things. They being her parents. Either she hadn't told them the full story, or she gave them some watered-down version they weren't fully buying. She had a journal with her. Said she started writing in it before she even began therapy, and kept adding to it up until that Friday morning. Told me reading it would help me understand everything. I said this isn't a book club and tried to head inside to get things rolling. But she asked for just 10 minutes alone with me before I talked to her parents. She kept trying to hand me the journal. Then she started crying. Right then, my sister and her sister came outside. Apparently, they were already inside and came out to check what was going on. So I took the journal, went inside, said hi to everyone, and left her alone in the back corner of my parents' big garden. They've got this quiet little spot with benches and trees, seemed like a good place for her to sit and breathe. Turns out, she quit her job. Said the stress had just built up too much. She had some sort of breakdown that never really passed. And she's not seeing that therapist anymore. What started as sessions about work problems slowly turned into relationship-focused therapy, which seemed to be the therapist's only interest. She never told her parents why we broke up. She's got a new therapist now. I just listened. She shifted the conversation from herself to us. Told me I'd have full control of our finances. That I'd get access to all her devices and could track her location wherever she went. Any property we bought would be in my name. She basically promised to do whatever it took to earn my trust back. She rattled off a long list, more than I can even remember now. But the thing is, I don't know how she thinks any of that would make for a healthy relationship. For either of us. I asked her straight up if she cheated. She told me she had the chance to but didn't. And yeah, I believe her. But that made me angry too. Like, what do you mean you had the opportunity? If you're committed to someone, you don't go around putting yourself in those situations to begin with. You're not even supposed to want that kind of opportunity. It's like saying I had the opportunity to kill someone today. What were you even doing where that was a possibility? And calling it an opportunity? Makes it sound like something desirable. Anyway, our 10 minutes were up and I told her it was time to go talk with our parents. So we did. I asked our sisters to let us have the conversation in peace. My sister gave me attitude about it, but hey, my family's got thick skin. She grumbled but backed off. Then I talked. I laid everything out, what happened, how that therapy session went, and why I made the decision I did. I didn't bring up the recording because I didn't actually have 2 recordings, just the one. To my surprise, my ex confirmed everything I said. Her dad got teary-eyed, and that broke me a little. Her mom asked if this was how she thought they raised her and wanted an explanation. My ex told them the same thing she told me. She'd been stressed, depressed, overwhelmed. She said the therapist insisted our relationship was the root of all her problems. That the therapist pushed the open relationship idea made her think she might lose me if she didn't even the playing field sexually. She said my reaction snapped her out of it. She quit her job and was looking for something less stressful now. She told everyone she'd do anything to win me back. Then she started crying again. She brought up the journal one more time. Said it explained everything. Claimed she never agreed with the therapist's ideas but went along with them because the therapist was an authority figure, someone she thought knew better. Everyone turned to me. I said, look, someone's personal journal isn't really my kind of reading unless they're a dead poet. Huge mistake. What I meant was that most people's journals only become interesting or meaningful when they're published after death, like when the author's someone famous or insightful. But the way it came out? It sounded like I wished she was dead. You could feel the tension in the room. So I backpedaled. Said fine, I'll read it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you say the wrong thing and lose a few more. She's seeing a new therapist now. Showed her parents' emails proving the appointments. This one's an older guy, white beard, real Freud-looking type. I looked him up online. He's married, goes to conferences, even wrote a couple books. They're on Amazon if you can believe it. Seems legit. Can you kids work this out? That was the second thing that pissed me off that day. Like this whole mess was some childish spat and we should just sit back and let the grown-ups fix it. As if we weren't capable of understanding our own feelings or deciding for ourselves what counts as betrayal. Apparently we were just 2 clueless kids who should kiss and make up. That comment helped me recover a little dignity after my poorly timed dead poet remark earlier. And that's pretty much how the day wrapped up. We've known each other for 9 years, been together for 5. Even if there's some explanation for what she did, how do you go back to how things were? You don't. This wasn't a clean slate. My entire way of seeing her had shifted. She became a stranger I just happened to know a lot about. Sure, I still found her beautiful. Honestly, she looked incredible that Friday. No question. But it felt staged. Her hair was done exactly how I like it. She wore the dress I bought her, the shoes I've always loved, and even spritzed on that perfume I gave her as a gift. She knew what she was doing. That journal of hers? It's been sitting on my nightstand. I haven't read it, and I doubt I ever will. I did flip through it, just to see if it really was a year old. And yeah, it checks out. The ink on the first few pages is clearly faded with time, and you can see the flow of entries as the weeks go on. The pen she used was clipped to the journal. It writes with the same ink, and it's worn down just enough to match a year's worth of use. It's not fake. Everything about it looks legit. But I still don't know what reading it would accomplish. Maybe it's not meant as manipulation. I don't think she started it with that in mind. From what she told me, her new therapist was the one who suggested she share it with me. As for how I'm handling all the nosy people asking why the wedding's off, I just say we had some big differences we couldn't work out. That's the simple version. But if her sister finds out the truth, and that's more than likely, given how tight she is with their mom, then the real story's probably going to get around. Our families want us to meet again next week. They're pushing me to read the journal, saying maybe it'll help. Maybe we can try again, start over, given all the history we have together. They say she's getting help and she'll get better. That she's still the same woman I fell in love with, just lost right now. They think I still love her too. Their words, not mine. They said if I didn't, I wouldn't be acting so theatrical. I don't think I'll go see them next Friday. But man, she really did look amazing. I want to thank everyone in the community who supported me and helped me figure out how to deal with that therapist. Seriously, thanks to those who pointed me in the right direction and gave me resources. Now I'm just stuck on one question. What do I do with her journal? Do I give it back? Keep it locked away and maybe read it when I'm 90? Update 2, here we go. The therapist doesn't work at the clinic anymore. From what I understand, that decision had a lot to do with the fact that someone is suing the clinic. Nope, it's not me. Somebody totally unrelated to my situation is filing the lawsuit. I don't know any of the details. But apparently the therapist tried to reach out to Rachel, unsuccessfully. I figure she caught wind of the report I filed and wanted to fish for information. Who knows? Rachel ignored her, blocked her number, and didn't respond. There's a tiny voice in the back of my mind whispering that maybe filing that report wasn't the smartest move. There's a chance that whoever is suing might get in touch with me. I really don't want that kind of attention. Still, knowing that therapist is in trouble. I can't lie. I've got this little smug grin I can't shake. For anyone who's ever wondered if I have feelings, well, here's your proof. And yes, that was sarcasm. Now about Rachel, this part's a whole lot more complicated. In one of my earlier updates I mentioned the journal. I decided to return it. I kept things professional. The courier from my office dropped it off that Monday morning. I wrote a short letter to go with it, explaining why I didn't read it. The truth? It felt like she was handing me this journal so she could step back from the whole situation. Like she wanted me to be the one digging for answers. So I decided to remove myself too. I gave it back. But honestly, right after I got confirmation that it had been delivered, I felt a pang of regret. Maybe I should have read it. Later that day, Rachel showed up at my workplace. She didn't cause a scene or anything. She just sat there, waiting patiently in the lobby. Her plan was to talk to me after I finished work. It didn't take long before someone let me know she was there. I had two options: ignore her or hear her out. So I talked to her. Turns out, there were a whole bunch of factors that led to our relationship falling apart. Stress was the first. I knew she was under pressure, but I didn't realize just how deep it went. When she first sought out a therapist for work stress, I should have paid more attention. But she always told me things were fine, so why would I think otherwise? Turns out, she had a breakdown at work. She hid it from me and from her family. Next, a miscarriage. She was pregnant, just a few weeks in, and was planning something special to tell me. But a few days later she started bleeding. That was it. She never told me about it. Said she was afraid I'd see her as damaged or incapable of having kids. She knows how badly I want to be a dad, and she convinced herself I'd see her as less if I knew. That kind of thinking? It's ridiculous. And heartbreaking. Then there were the friends. I've mentioned in the comments before, we had some friends in open relationships. Well, one of them reached out to Rachel nearly a year ago and took her to lunch. And then she just unloaded all her bitterness about her failed marriage. Her husband had way more experience than she did, same as me and Rachel. In my case, I had 24 previous partners. In this friend's case, her husband had 80. Once they got married, he insisted on an open relationship, and she's been miserable ever since. She told Rachel that the same thing would happen to her if she wasn't careful. Claimed I was showing the same warning signs her husband did before they tied the knot. And finally, point number 4. Sometimes the people we love aren't who we think they are. Both of our dads work in academia. They've known each other for something like 25, maybe 30 years. They go to all the same conferences and work events, usually with their wives in tow. That's actually how I met Rachel. I was tagging along with my dad to one of those events, hoping to connect with a professor who might help open some career doors for me. Rachel was there too, standing in for her mom, who'd supposedly had a scheduling conflict and couldn't make it. Or at least that's what she was told at the time. Turns out, her parents were in the middle of a serious rough patch. Her dad had been unfaithful. Rachel only found out about this recently after opening up to her mom about the concerns that friend had raised. It hit her hard. Her parents had always seemed like the perfect couple. The gold standard. They worked things out eventually, kept up the appearance of a solid marriage the whole time. But that illusion got cracked for her. So yeah, let's recap. 4 horsemen: stress, miscarriage, bad advice from friends, and now, family betrayal. Add in a therapist with questionable ethics and that's how a relationship crashes and burns. This therapist? She couldn't have been happier to plan out some so-called open relationship for us. She backed up everything that friend told Rachel. Claimed men like me are never satisfied with one woman, that I'd eventually stray no matter what. Her solution? Rachel should sleep with other men. You know, to even the score. Supposedly that would cure my cheating urges. And even though I'd naturally be against it, the therapist said if I truly loved her I'd understand. It was like a twisted logic sandwich. The idea was that this would fix my behavior, prove my love, and somehow strengthen our bond. Yeah, sure. That was never going to work. And honestly, I think the therapist knew it would fail. Maybe that was the point. What she didn't count on was how fast I'd call everything off. That's just my theory, but it makes sense. After all that, Rachel and I met every day that week. I had questions and she answered all of them. One thing was obvious: while I was mentally packing my bags, she was ready to fight tooth and nail to save what we had. At the end of the week, I had to leave for another city for work. It was supposed to be a 2-week trip, but it ended up getting extended to 4. Extra billable hours, gotta love it. Before I left, I gave Rachel a copy of the therapy session recording. She knew I had it. In fact, that was one of the first things we talked about when she showed up at my office that Monday. I think hearing it really rattled her. What she remembered from that session didn't match what was actually said. I think that was the moment she finally understood why I'd reacted the way I did. While I was away, folks back home knew not to bother me. I had 3 weeks of peace and it was glorious. Funny enough, a few people in the comments had offered to grab a beer if I was ever in their town. I took one of them up on it. First time I ever met someone from Reddit in person, and surprise, he wasn't a weirdo. He and his wife were actually great people. During the 4th week, Rachel came to visit. We'd stayed in touch the whole time, texting, calling, always talking about us. There was still one big thing left to figure out. We had booked a trip to France, our would-be honeymoon. It was scheduled for 3 months after the wedding, since we couldn't take time off right away. Well, the trip was coming up. The flights were non-refundable because of course they were, and the hotel was all set. Only thing missing? Us. That week, we talked it over and agreed to still go, but just as friends. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I can already see the eye rolls. But France was incredible. Going there made me realize just how medieval the US feels sometimes. You walk through a museum and can immediately spot the Americans. Honestly, they should teach a course in school on how to behave abroad. Anyway, we came back from France as a couple. It wasn't because Paris is magical or anything. It was because we spent real time rebuilding. We're not who we used to be, and we know that. But we're working on it. There are a few things we've both agreed to moving forward. Rachel is job hunting again, this time for something with less stress. The friends and open relationships? They're done. We're not keeping those people in our lives. We both love the name Rachel, and if we ever have a daughter, that'll be her name. Thank you, France. Never ever hide something like a miscarriage from your partner. I'm still furious about that. We're getting a puppy and a kitten. She's staying with her current therapist for a while longer. That guy seems solid. When we get married, if and when, it'll be just us in close family. Small ceremony, simple, meaningful. Probably in Italy. I know this probably isn't the dramatic, action-packed ending some people were hoping for. A lot of folks wanted to see revenge, or rage, or some explosive finale. But like I've said all along, I didn't hate Rachel. Everything I did came from a place of self-preservation. At the time, she was acting like she wanted a relationship I couldn't recognize. Something totally at odds with what I thought we'd built together. To those concerned about her mental health, don't be. Once that therapist's influence faded away, she came back to herself. Not exactly the same, of course, because something like this leaves a mark. But she's in a good place now. You probably remember she once offered to give me full control of the finances, her devices, her location, everything. I never wanted that kind of dynamic. It wasn't about trust, it was desperation on her part. We've agreed to stay transparent. We've always been open with our phones and computers, so nothing changes there. Finances? We'll keep them shared, just like we've always done. To everyone who talked with me in the comments or reached out privately, thank you. Some of you gave me advice I'll never forget. Truly, writing these posts, sharing my story, and hearing back from you all has been therapeutic in the best way. I didn't expect it, but I'm grateful for it.